Hey Dave, where are we going?
Going to make bad decisions.
The worst decision of all.
Oh my gosh. My buddy Bear and I just picked up this. I don't know if you can see our new M817. It's night. Traffic isn't so bad on the interstate or on the roads. We're going to try to drive this thing from Denver to the ranch, which is what, about 60, 70 miles away?
60 miles, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So
About 3 hours.
this is the dumbest thing we've ever done. Here we go. Let's do it.
Break.
All right, so you might be asking yourself the exact same thing my wife is asking. Why on earth did you buy something like this? And I will tell you, she's totally right for asking that. I mean, this thing, it goes for like 40 miles per hour maximum. And every mile per hour over 40, you feel like you're just infinitely closer to your maker. It's loud, it's rough. It feels like you're riding in a wheelbarrow being pushed down a cobblestone street. The windows don't work. Everything about this thing doesn't make any sense except for the fact it is just one of the funnest vehicles I've ever driven. I've never felt cooler, I think, than driving this thing. Just some of the stats. It's got like a 14-liter engine, and if you compare that to, say, like an older Corvette engine with a 350 or a 5.7-liter engine, you take the cylinders from that old Corvette and you would see they're about the size of a Coke can. And if you take one of the 6 cylinders out of this 14-liter engine, you'll see that they're about the size of a 2-liter bottle. They're massive. And what that does, even without having a turbocharger on this thing, it just creates a massive amount of torque for a really geared down vehicle. So you can just get, just super deep into the low RPMs, and this thing just keeps on chugging along, and it's just so much fun to drive. And if you put it into low gear, so first gear, low gear is already in a granny, and I don't think there's any way of stalling this thing. It's going to turn the wheels, in all 6 of them at the same time. It's really just probably one of the coolest vehicles I've ever driven. It just kind of made me think about, like, where did this thing come from? It was built in the 70s, and it was such a cool vehicle. So you can imagine all the different wars it had been a part of. It had potentially been a part of the Vietnam conflict. It was probably in the Gulf or something like that. But there's just not a lot of history you can find out specifically about how these things performed and what they did in action. And if somebody out there has that information, I would love to get it. We get this thing back to the ranch, and we're going to start putting this thing to work. And I will tell you that the other part of this is just everybody who drives it. It's usually my buds, and even my little boy who got a chance to drive this thing a standard. How many guys, can say they can drive one, let alone 10-year-olds drive one? Just have a massive smile on their face. It is just the funnest vehicle to drive. So what are we going to be doing with it at the ranch? So at the ranch, the goal is to have a area where we can teach guys, or people can see different kind of elements that we're going to be racing to while we're at the Baja 1000, while we're at the Mint 400. And I just want drivers to see those things for the first time in a controlled environment at the ranch, where we can talk about things. They can kind of learn, how fast can I go into a turn? How hard can I hit the brakes? When does a vehicle, get really unstable, and those kinds of things, so that when they go to races, they're hitting those at full speed. They have a lot of experience. So we'll be using this truck to move material around and create features like, berms, turns, whoops, and all those kinds of things, and a whole bunch of jumps. And you'll get to see that in the future as we kind of continue on with that. And the other thing is that we're just trying to maintain the pristine nature of this property that we have out there. And so I think we're going to try to kind of keep the center of the property the way it is and maintain our crops and all that kind of stuff and allow some animals to graze. And we want to just move material from one area where we already have a small pond. We want to make that a bigger pond, and we're going to move all that material to the areas where we're going to have whoops and jumps and those kinds of things. And so that's what this machine will primarily be used for. on top of the fact that I think that we're going to go through it, clean it completely up, replace any parts that are kind of rusted out, fix some of the valving that's leaking some air, and then paint this thing, just make it look totally badass. And I think it'd be a cool vehicle anywhere, parades and those kinds of things. And I totally look forward to doing that. But in the meantime, it just sure is a fun vehicle to drive around. All right, we're trying to come up with names for this thing.
Thumper the Dumper.
Thumper the Dumper. And my favorite is Take-Up. Anyway, you can figure that out. But the whole drive here, this thing did amazing. No overheating. It doesn't have a lot of power. It doesn't have there's no turbo on it, so there's just not a lot there. But we're gonna be putting this thing to work here, trying to build up some jumps and that kind of stuff out at the ranch. Once we get the backhoe out here, we'll be able to get the whole thing going. But right here next to Honcho, we got a little bit of RV over there. There's Mambo. So all the toys out here. And now Thumper the Dumper or Take-Up. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of good names. So if you want to see what's coming up, please consider subscribing. And most importantly, that whole ring the bell thing is the most important thing. It'll let you know when the next episode comes up for these things, and we'll see you next week. Boom. Take care of yourself.
No leaks. Bulletproof 6x6. Can't even turn the front tires off. So apparently they shot a video of this thing with like 4 crushed Priuses in the back, and then it ran over like 2 more Priuses. So one of the coolest things is we bought this, or Dave bought it, I say we, I test drove it, from this company who's the first U-Pull-It junkyard in Colorado, apparently, to its thing, on its sign. But the guy named, what was his name? Gary Corns. He has built the Plymouth rotary engine, airplane engine powered truck that has been on the Jay Leno car show a few times. So this guy's pretty cool. He's got all the toys. He's been making bad decisions longer than we have.
He's a cool guy.
But he's a really cool guy. We got to tour his shop. Got some pictures we're going to show. But this thing's awesome. Can't wait to get it out to the ranch.